Have you ever wondered how a handful of colonies became the world's most powerful nation? What if I told you the entire epic story? From revolution to the digital age, could be understood in just 10 minutes. Get ready, because we're about to embark on a whirlwind tour through American history. Our story begins long before 1776, with diverse Native American civilizations thriving across the continent. Everything changed in 1492 when Christopher Columbus arrived, kicking off a massive wave of European exploration and colonization. The Spanish, French, and British all staked their claims. But it was the British who established the 13 colonies along the Atlantic coast. From New England in the north to Georgia in the south, these colonies developed unique identities, driven by different economies, religions, and social structures. The north focused on trade and small farms, while the south built a plantation economy heavily reliant on the forced labor of enslaved Africans, a brutal system that would cast a long shadow over the nation's future. For over a century, the colonies grew under British rule, but tensions began to simmer. The colonists, who had developed a strong sense of self-reliance, bristled under British policies. They felt their rights as Englishmen were being ignored, especially when Parliament started imposing taxes without their consent. Acts like the Stamp Act and the Tea Act were met with fierce opposition. Cries of no taxation without representation echoed through the streets of Boston and Philadelphia. The Boston Tea Party, where colonists dumped British tea into the harbor, was a bold act of defiance. Britain responded harshly, leading to the first shots of the American Revolution at Lexington and Concord in 1775. A year later, on July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence, a revolutionary document that declared all men are created equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The war was long and difficult, but with crucial help from France, General George Washington's Continental Army ultimately defeated the mighty British Empire. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 officially recognized the United States as an independent nation. Winning the war was one thing. Building a country was another. The first attempt at a government, the Articles of Confederation, was too weak. So, in 1787, the nation's founders gathered in Philadelphia to draft a new blueprint. The United States Constitution. This remarkable document established a federal system with 3 branches of government, executive and judicial, designed with checks and balances to prevent any one branch from becoming too powerful. George Washington was elected as the first president, and the young republic began to find its footing. The nation expanded westward at a breathtaking pace. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 doubled the size of the country overnight, fueling the idea of manifest destiny, the belief that Americans were destined to spread across the continent. This expansion, however, came at a great cost to Native American populations, who were forcibly removed from their ancestral lands. As the country grew, so did a deep and bitter divide over the issue of slavery. The industrial North and the agrarian South had become 2 different worlds. Abolitionist movements grew stronger in the North, while the South fiercely defended slavery as essential to its economy and way of life. Compromises were attempted, but they only delayed the inevitable. The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860, who opposed the expansion of slavery, was the final straw for the South. 11 Southern states seceded from the Union to form the Confederacy, triggering the American Civil War. The war, which lasted from 1861 to 1865, was the deadliest conflict in American history. It was a brutal struggle that tore the nation apart. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 declared slaves in Confederate territory to be free, transforming the war into a fight for human liberty. In 1865, the Union emerged victorious. The nation was preserved, and slavery was abolished by the 13th Amendment. But the road to healing and true equality would be long and difficult. The period after the Civil War, known as Reconstruction, aimed to rebuild the South and integrate nearly 4 million newly freed African Americans into society. It was a time of great promise, but also great resistance. Despite the passage of the 14th and 15th Amendments granting citizenship and voting rights, deep-seated racism led to the rise of segregation and Jim Crow laws in the South, effectively denying African Americans their rights for nearly a century. At the same time, America was undergoing a massive industrial revolution. Railroads crisscrossed the country. New inventions like the telephone and the electric light bulb changed daily life, and cities exploded in size as millions of immigrants arrived from Europe and Asia, seeking opportunity. This Gilded Age saw immense wealth created by industrial titans like Carnegie and Rockefeller, but it also brought about harsh working conditions, urban poverty, and labor unrest. The 20th century propelled the United States onto the world stage. After initially trying to stay neutral, America entered World War I in 1917, helping tip the balance in favor of the Allies. The Roaring Twenties followed a decade of economic prosperity and cultural change, but it all came crashing down with the stock market collapse of 1929, plunging the nation and the world into the Great Depression. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs aimed to combat the economic crisis with massive government intervention, creating a social safety net, and forever changing the role of government in American life. The calm was shattered on December 7, 1941, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, thrusting the U.S. into World War II. The nation mobilized on an unprecedented scale, with its industrial might becoming the arsenal of democracy. The war ended in 1945 after the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ushering in the nuclear age. In the aftermath of World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union emerged as the world's two superpowers, locked in a tense ideological struggle known as the Cold War. This period was defined by a nuclear arms race, proxy wars, in places like Korea and Vietnam, and a space race that culminated in the American moon landing in 1969. The Vietnam War, in particular, deeply divided the country and sparked a powerful counterculture movement. At home, another profound struggle was taking place. The civil rights movement, led by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., activists used nonviolent protests to challenge segregation and demand equal rights. Their bravery and sacrifice led to landmark legislation like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, finally dismantling the legal structure of segregation. The late 20th century saw the end of the Cold War with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, leaving the United States as the world's sole superpower. The digital revolution, driven by the personal computer and the internet, fundamentally transformed the economy and society. The new millennium began with a horrific shock: the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. These events led to the global war on terror, with long and costly conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq. The nation has also grappled with economic recessions, intense political polarization, and ongoing debates over issues like healthcare, immigration, and racial justice. From a few rebellious colonies to a global superpower, the history of the United States is a complex, dynamic, and often contradictory story of struggle and triumph, of ideals and the difficult reality of living up to them. It's a story that continues to unfold every single day. Thanks for watching this rapid-fire journey through American history. If you found this interesting, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.